Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining Mr. Smith Garage. We are here in the garage with Jack, named after Jack Willie's beachside bar or bayside bar in Tampa, Florida. Great place, Jack Willie's, and so Jack's namesake is Jack Willie's. I've gone through quite a few things in the last 3 days, 4 days or whatever, in the evenings. Found, quite a few cool parts here. I've also found a couple of extras, which is always good to have extras because you never know when you're going to need an extra part. Look at this. We've taken out the shift linkage. So I got all the shift linkage out, ordered all these parts to do new parts. So like this especially is broken there, but just getting new parts that we can use to put the shift linkage back together. We'll clean that all up and get it painted. Just waiting for those wheel cylinders to come in. I think they're coming in Friday. I've moved everything over here because I've got Ferdinand, the Porsche, the 1990 944 Porsche is at, I think it's Frank Johnston Upholstery. I took the gas tank off, which I don't think I'm going to put back under there. I think I'm planning on putting a glass top electric stove in here, and not sure about their fridge, how I'm going to do that, but I don't know if I'm going to be using gas. We'll see. I do have an NOS fridge. It has not ever been used, and it's really nice. I could maybe just use it for 12 volt and electric on those two. The other thing I did is I started pulling apart the front end, and so I just want to show you the new Schwenk shocks and the shock that came out of Jack. So quite a bit of difference there. Oh, I found this part, which is a part that I've been looking for, out in my burn pile, which burn pile, I mean the 82 donor two-tone van that I had. The engine basically caught on fire. That vehicle was abandoned in Reading 25, 30 years ago after it caught on fire, so it only had like 70,000 miles on it. The top end, like all the plastic stuff and hoses and everything, kind of melted and burned in place. But when I tore that engine apart, I kind of kept some parts just because I wasn't sure what I might need off of that engine and if it had part numbers or anything. But luckily enough, I did find that part, which I have not been successful in finding this part anywhere, so I'm pretty glad that I found it. So today's video, or the video that I'm doing, it's probably going to be over a couple of days, is going from this, where we've got everything kind of put together, to this, where everything's taken apart. And again, once I'm done, this sway bar will be off of there, and probably the steering will be off of there. Ready to clean up and take care of. And so I'm going to try to do some step-by-step of how to kind of pull all this stuff apart. And this, again, Jack is an 81 Volkswagen Vanagon. It's air-cooled, California emissions. So you can see pretty rough shape, but the body's clean, not a lot of rust, only a couple of dings here and there that I got to take care of. But for the most part, really good shape. It looks like, as I've started pulling some of this stuff apart, that somebody worked on redoing the front suspension. Let me get some light on the subject here. Not suspension, the front brakes. Yeah, by far, nobody's touched the suspension on this. You can see these bushings here, this tie rod end, the bushings for that arm, I forget what it's called. I'll put it in the notes. Are all totally toast. The lower bushing, lower spindle bushing, upper bushing, look at that, completely torn apart. The bushings that are in the lower control arm, those are toast, and the upper control arm bushings are pretty much toast as well. So yeah, so we're gonna get this all taken apart, and then we will kind of clean it up. I do have a spot right here that is a hole to the inside, and I've got that part from the donor van, so hoping that I can figure out how to cut that out and weld the piece in that I need to weld in. We'll probably get I think I've got most of these bushings already from Burley Motorsports, and we're going to probably do a new disc. We're going to probably do stock, not going to do big brakes or anything. I think I'm just going to do stock brakes. Suspension, the Schwenk springs, and the Radflow shocks will be loaded in here. Got to clean all this up, get this fuel rollover tank cleaned up and ready to put the fuel tank in once we get all the suspension in. We're going to go from that other side to this, and that's what this video is going to be all about. It wasn't the easiest thing. There is definitely some steps to do it in. So that's kind of where we're going to go with this. Again, this might take me a couple of days just because I only really work on this in the evenings, but we'll see where we can get. Right now, what I'm going to do is go spray all the bolts on the other side with the infamous PB blaster. Made it a whole lot easier. And again, using something like this, like a 1/2-inch drive ratchet with this on the end, made it a whole lot easier. This is definitely an old, crusty Volkswagen when it comes to all the suspension bolts. Like I said, I don't think any of this stuff has been ever pulled off before, except for maybe the brakes and brake lines. But that's where we're at. So again, thanks for joining. We do appreciate you following along. I did get a question from a viewer that was asking about the shifting linkage. That'll probably be, a week and a half. Kind of depends on how much time I have to spend on some of this. And then when I get the parts, because I did order a bunch of parts for the shift linkage. And I think was hard to get into second gear, possibly. So there's probably some adjustments there that you can do. I'm going to use my Bentley and try and figure that out. I don't have the engine in yet. It'd probably be hard. It's not like I can start it and try and get it into gear. So that could be a couple of months before I get to that video. But we will. I mean, we're basically redoing this from the bottom up. So we're getting all the suspension drivetrain done, and then we'll get it started and running. Then we will start working on the body and the interior, because if you look at the interior now, it is just a lot of undone stuff. All right, so I have an assortment of tools here that I think I'll be using in most cases, along with some of these and the jack. We'll use this jack, not this jack. I have sprayed all of the key bolts that we need to spray. I sprayed the top here, the shock, sprayed these guys that are the upper ball joint. I sprayed that bolt, which takes the upper A-arm off. I sprayed the tie rod bolt, and then the bolt that's on the sway bar to I think it's called radius arm. Does that sound right? And then these 3 bolts that go through to the bottom, I sprayed those. And let's see if you can see these. I sprayed the bolts that hold the caliper, the brake caliper, onto the spindle. And then I sprayed the shock absorber bolt, which I think the end that comes off is here on this side. So I sprayed that. I don't think I didn't spray the brake line, but we are going to take the brake line off here. Oh, and then I sprayed, the lower control arm bolt or nut that's on that side. First thing that we're going to take off is this here. Actually, you know what? I think we'll take the bolts off of the back of the brake caliper and the brake line to brake line. So there's a hard brake line here, and then there's the soft brake line that allows you to steer, and it doesn't get bound up. So we'll take that off first, then we'll take the bolts that are behind this brake caliper off, and then we'll take the spindle or the disc off. All right, so the first thing we're going to take off is this this brake here, brake line. So hard brake line to soft brake line. Soft brake line is 14 millimeter, hard brake line is 11 millimeter. There we go. Just gotta break that loose and then it'll start leaking. So make sure you have some kind of drain pan underneath. So once it's loose, we can start moving the 11 millimeter to get looser. You probably can't see because my hand's in the way, but basically I'm trying to get this 11 loosened. It's probably a design. There we go. Now the clip is turned and I can pretty much just turn the brake line here. There we go. Drop that into there. Make sure we don't lose this piece. Let's do this first. We'll go up this way. And getting it on that bolt. I'm going to use a hammer. Just don't hit your hand. Okay, there's one. The other one, we're going to come from the bottom up, I think. Let's see if that is what I did last time. I think that's what I did. Yeah. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see that. Okay, from this side, you put the breaker bar down and try and break it going up. There we go. Again, just trying to make it as easy as possible there. Okay, there's a couple of extra washers on that one. Okay. Nope. We are spewing brake fluid. Okay, so here's our brake caliper. I'm going to put it in here, let it drain. I'm going to put these bolts back. So the one without threads all the way through, goes to the bottom, which I don't know why they're different, but the one with threads all the way through goes on the top bracket. Okay, having all the tools handy and available makes it a little bit easier to get through this process. So let's just see if we can. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to bump the camera. Okay, there is that. Don't get that all dirty. And you can see that is just, I think it's 36 mil. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's 20. Oh, it's 27. 27 millimeter. Now, it's got a punch right here. See that? That's when we put it back on to keep it from spinning off. But I don't think that punch is going to cause me too much problems. Once you start spinning it off, it will just spin. No problem. Okay. Got the nut. I'm going to get the washer that is slotted. You can see that slot right there. Going to put that with the with the bearing, which I think I've got new bearings for this, but I'm going to put the bearing and the nut all in my little cap there. This should come right off, which it does. And I'm just going to clean off this because I'm going to set this down forward like that. Now on the other side, I had this handy dandy tool. Let's see if I can get these loose here. I did not spray these. Oh yeah, this screwdriver is JAL, which is Japanese thread, or Japanese, what do they call it? JAL. Anyway, I use it on the Sea-Doos because it just is a little bit better than our American. Quite a bit of torque. If you can't get get these screws off, Harbor Freight, of course Pittsburgh, makes this, which is a hammering item that it makes things pretty easy. In fact, I'll just use it for this one just to show you what it does. You put your screwdriver bit on there. You put this in, as long as you have it the right way. It's basically like a ratcheting hammer. I guess that's what you'd call it, right? Let's see if they call it something different. Impact screwdriver set. So I found that pretty handy when I was working on the Sea-Doos, because there's some screws on that just don't want to budge at all. I'm going to take this plate off. Okay, those are still good. We just need to clean them up. I'm going to put these screws back on there. Okay, this is where it gets a little important about which bolt you take off when. So one of the bolts that I already took off was this, I think it's called a radius rod, or anyway, so I already took that one off. Anyway, so radius arm you want to take off, and then next thing that we want to take off is the bolt underneath. We want to take this bolt off next, okay? And then, if we can, we want to take this bolt off. And basically that's because these are under pressure on the upward ways. So if we take it off, then it just kind of gives it gives you an angle where you could actually take these off, which is the main reason. But it also just helps you to be able to use the leverage from the car to use your force. So here's our first one here. I'm going to go this way. Again, I got this little thing to help me. And see how easy that made it. Okay, let's take that off. Yeah, see, look at that, just fall apart there. Huh. Okay, we won't worry about that yet. I think the next bolts are these. So the way I did these ones is I put a wrench on top, and then I used the impact driver. That's what we call this thing, an impact driver. Yeah, let's see if this works for me today. Yep, that did. Now we just want to get them loose. We don't want to take them all the way off, because we're going to get the jack under there before we take it all off. Okay, so we got those loose. Okay, next thing we're going to loosen up is these 8mm Allens. Again, using a breaker bar just to get it loose. We're not going to take these off. Okay, so those are loose. I think we want to try and get the shock absorber bottom. Oh no, top. We want to do that top. That was also a 14mm. Yep, look at that. 14mm. Again, if you have a ratcheting 14mm, it might make this job a little bit easier. Okay, see what I said about spring pressure? Okay, we are going for the bottom shock, and that is a 22mm. Okay, let's make sure we get that socket out of there. There we can. Okay. It's pretty tight down here. Yep, got the nut off. So hopefully you can see that. Got that nut right off of there. Screwdriver. And just poke that stud through, and you will see the shock absorber will fall out. And if you take that piece out, the rest of it will fall out. Put those bolts back so that you don't lose them. This had some anti-seize. I think these shocks are a little bit newer than the vehicle. Again, I gotta get some better lighting in here. It's nice when it's hot because it's cool, but So this is a cotter pin. This keeps it from coming off, which is probably important on some of these bolts because, or nuts, because this handles your steering. And if this were to come off while you're driving down the road, you probably wouldn't do too well. So you want to take the cotter pin out. And again, remember what I said about leverage? If you wait till the end to take this one off, it's going to be a little harder than right now. So we're going to take it off. Remember, I sprayed that. We're going to turn it upside down. Get it back till it's about at the bottom there. We're just going to pop this out. Just going to pop it out. Well, you know what? Let's leave it for now. And let's spray it. Maybe it'll come out. Okay, so I have the jack in there just enough to give it pressure. Okay, that one's off. Okay, we got that last one. Yeah, a little Craftsman just doesn't do the trick sometimes. It's pretty lightweight little. Okay, there we go. Okay, so all three of those are off. Okay. Now, and you also need to take off these guys. So let me readjust the camera. Again, we've got the jack supporting the spring, which I'm just trying to think of how that's gonna, yeah, this works this way. I'm gonna take this off. So the spring pressure is not on this, but the spring pressure is on the bottom of the spindle. And so you just don't want that to pop off, because that would hurt. Okay, so that come off. So now, if we lower the jack, and stand back, hopefully that spring won't, yeah. These springs don't have a ton of spring tension in them. What's holding it here? That radius arm is kind of holding it. You gotta get that off of there. So, that is greasy. Forgot the spindle was all greasy. I'm like, where am I getting grease? Okay, and then we gotta get this tie rod off of there, which that's gonna be tricky. Radius arm gets loose. A little bit of rust and rubber that's deteriorated there. Okay, so I guess let's get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, hopefully you're seeing all this. Now we're gonna jack it back up a little bit. I think we can actually let this down. And our spring, yeah, the spring's not that tight anymore. I'm still gonna have that up just in case. There we go. Spring is out. And there is a rubber piece up here. There's the rubber bumper. Goes at the top. See if we get a little bit better angle to be able to beat this thing with. I don't know, we'll see. No, it is not happy. Boy, you would think that would just pop right out, but it hasn't. What about this one? Okay. Got to do something successful here, right? Okay. Once again, getting out our breaker bar. And putting that. Yeah, let's see if I can get this thing pulled out anymore. Okay, so the plan is to get this nut off of there. But I gotta somehow get this on the other side where I can't see. Oh, there we go. Okay, ready? Well, that was easy. At least it was easier than I thought it would be. Let's get the washer. And then we're gonna push that nut through, or the bolt back through. Force that's keeping it in there. There we go. It's gonna drop. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Just gonna put this back in so we don't forget where it goes. And that brings us back to this side. We have got to get this tie rod off. It does not want to come out, huh? Let's go get a steel hammer. Gotta hit it, right? Let's try a little more here. Oh, yeah, don't swing that hammer around and hit your face. There it went. Did you hear that? Whew. All right, you may not be able to see this that well, but we're going for this nut right here. Again, using that to get just a little bit of leverage. Okay, so let's see if I can do this with the camera still in there. Take away some of your light. I need something here. Okay, the other one went off, came off pretty easy. Oh, there we go. Just had to get it off of that pressure. Okay, so there are those special washers in here. There's one. Okay, and that bolt only comes out one way because it's that long. Okay, let's get that washer. And there's one over here. I'm just going to stick them on here so I don't lose them. And there's one right here. We are going to be doing new bushings for these, but we might need those special washers. I don't want to have to buy new ones. I've got another set out in the shed too, but so we're putting it all back together there so you can see there's a piece. All right, so really I think we've done it. That was what we were looking to do, was go from everything on there to everything off of there. And we're going to still take these off. There's 2 bolts here, 2 nuts here, 2 nuts on the other side, and I'm going to take the steering piece off. Just to emphasize, if you haven't been following along and this is the first time to the channel, Jack has been in the garage here for about 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And there's a few videos way back when on Jack. And we've done a few things to him over the time. But most recently, we've got the rear suspension all figured out and done. Transaxle is in, waiting to receive the 2.0 liter fuel injected motor with most all the parts here. I'm waiting on just a few things from Vanagon. Today we are finishing up the removal of front suspension. It's been a couple of days. What I did in the meantime, I moved early on the video, you'll see most of the stuff removed, and then you'll see that I've got what it looks like 2 sets of suspension here, which I do. So just to finish up this video, we're going to take off that sway bar and the steering rack, because we got some replacement things to put into those. That's all that's going to be on the remainder of this video. But I wanted to still show you what I worked on yesterday. Did some clean out of the shed, and I mainly did this to make sure that I'm not missing any parts that I have in here. So as you can see inside the shed here, we've got lots of body parts. This is the only rear door I have left. I got rid of the green rear door, so I'm hoping that all works out. This is the only sliding door I have left. I got rid of the green sliding door. Had quite a bit of rust in the bottom channel, and this one not so much. So and I've got 2 front doors here. This is all off that 2-tone 1982 Vanagon that I've talked about a few times. Got some body panels here that are possible replacement panels for a few spots on Jack. Also down there you can see at the bottom shelf I've got some body panels. Here's my dash. Obviously it was off of an 84, so this dash has been replaced before. And then I got some other stuff just kind of up, and then I labeled all my parts in nice boxes. This rack is new to me. And I've also got a front blower motor up there. That's an extra part. I've got my NOS refrigerator there that has never been plugged in or installed in a vehicle. And then I've got, you can see I've got a bunch of tin for a 2.0 motor down here, and a lot of springs back there. You may not be able to see all of those, but they're there. And parts are labeled so that if I need to come back out here and find a part, then it won't be that hard for me to locate. At least that's what I'm hoping. Oh, and I've also got the wheels here for Jack stacked up in there. Before we get to kind of the final process on removing the front suspension, just show you a couple parts that I did find when cleaning out that I may not need to get. Here's an O2 sensor. Here's my AFM and air box. I found a spare Jetronic computer. Not sure if this works or not. Not sure if the original in this 81 works or not, but I've got a couple of those, which is always good to have. Other parts that I found, remember I was talking about this part here? Sure enough, it was in the bottom of a box. This is the part that I actually need, where it's two outlets. I also found this. I'm not sure if I've talked about that yet or not, but found that part. This little hose is a good hose to have. It actually goes on this part that I already have one on Jack's engine over there, but it's always good to have an extra part. I found this part. I did find this. This is the deceleration valve. This was off the burnt motor. If I look inside, deep inside, it looks like it's okay. I don't think that there is any rubber in there, but I'm not sure. So we're gonna, I can't find one. I've asked around, I've asked out on the Samba. The guy did respond to me and said that he had 6, but then he hasn't responded again. I'm hoping that he will respond, or I need to check my junk email. Waiting for some parts that should show up today to help get the engine back looking like it's ready to go in. It's Like right now we're missing the fuel injectors here, but I've got those on mail. All the exhaust from down below, I've got exhaust parts here that I could put on to do at least my first start before I figure out exhaust stuff. And then here's kind of the heater and blower stuff. I found this, even though I ordered a new one, so now I've got a spare on this one. Also, it has the bolts in there, so I know which bolts go where. So once we get the rest of this off, we're gonna do some power spraying, clean up the parts that I'm gonna use, which I think are off the 82, just a lot less miles on those parts, and they have a little bit less corrosion on some of the threads and everything. We'll get down underneath here and pull apart a few more things and start cleaning. First, let's take off this bar here. Remember, I did spray these with Blaster, PB Blaster, a couple times actually. Gotta hang on to these brackets, clean them up. There's 1/2 off. And let's hope this doesn't just, well, I can kind of hold it a little bit, but let's hope it doesn't fall on the camera. Oh, there we go. And again, spraying this with PB Blaster. PB Blaster is your friend on old stuff. That zip line down there. Okay, we're gonna move this out and around, over. All the crusties falling off. All right, so that is getting the sway bar off. Next, we'll work our way to the steering column. There's a steering knuckle right there that we're gonna have to take off, right up here. So that's I think I can do it with, yeah, there's all 4 bolts you have to take off, which is fine. We'll take those off. And then here, there's 4 bolts here that go. So there's one on the bottom, one on the top, and you access them from the back. The nuts on the back, the bolt goes all the way through. And so we'll take those off. I think I'm gonna try and loosen these first, see if they loosen. Loosen that a little bit. I think I'm going to need a little bit longer ratchet to get up to the top one with some more leverage. Okay, so should have the nut there. Yep, that was a big washer. A little dusty there, huh? We're going to get all these. Okay, so I got 3 of the 4 off. I'm just working on the last one now. I've been using socket to this side and then the wrench to the other side, and it seems to be going just fine. So they're all a little dirty. I think most of this is just crusty dirt from years and years of driving. They're coming off. There's no rust on these, which is nice. Oh, we're off. We're off. Aren't we? Yep. Okay, so now it's just getting the rest of this off of there. Okay, lots of dirt. I'm gonna keep that in there just to hold it up, maybe. Oh, while I get the top one. And I gotta make sure we're going the right way on this one. Okay, we're not all the way off, but I think I can get it with maybe reaching up into the spiders there. Yeah, I think I got it. Okay. Oh. So those 2 are off. Oops. Just don't want to drop on my face. Now we just need to get this last one here. Are you still with me? You can see what's going on there. Whew. Crusty. There's that last nut and the last bolt. This should be able to just drop down nicely, and it does. Okay. So that's everything that we're going to tear out of there. Everything else we're just going to clean up, spray it with some fresh coat of nice undercoating paint, and we're gonna go clean up all these brake parts with some power sprayer, get them all painted or whatever we need to do. Maybe get some new hardware so it goes in there nice and easy when it goes back up. Once again, thanks again to Burley Motorsports. He has had just a ton of parts for me for the Vanagon, and so if you don't order from Burley, you might want to think about it. He carries really good quality parts. He just wants to make sure that you don't have any problems with the parts, and so that's why he does that. So thanks again, Burley, and thanks for watching the teardown of this. Once we get to the reassembly, we'll make sure we get a new video on that. Once again, thanks for watching Mr. Smith Garage. Subscribe and like if you haven't already, and follow us along as we rebuild Jack, the 81 air-cooled Vanagon. Westfalia. See that popped up there is looking good.